This video is lovingly called Real Estate Investing. It's just not for you. Because we're going to go over the top 5 reasons why people don't invest, stop investing, or should not invest in real estate. And for those of us that do want to invest in real estate, I'm going to let you know how I overcome these challenges so that those of us that do invest can grow generational wealth for years to come. So, the first reason why people don't invest or should not invest in real estate is fear of the unknown. You're never going to know everything in real estate. It's almost impossible. You're going to have to make decisions with some things just are going to be a guess. In the Marine Corps, they teach officers how to make decisions with a 70% solution. That means you only have 70% of the available information in front of you, and you've got to make a decision and take action. The important thing here, the lesson there is taking action without knowing the certainty of the outcome. Then, once you take the action, you can make adjustments as required as you continue on. As long as you're moving forward, at least you're moving. So, how do we overcome this? One is education. Read the books, listen to the podcast, like and follow, subscribe to this channel, blah, 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 blah. Educate yourself to get to that 70% level of knowledge you need, and then take action. If the fear is still crippling, hey, real estate's just not for you. The number two reason why people don't invest or should not invest in real estate is lack of capital. Let's be honest, it's not a cheap game. You can buy stocks, you can buy the S&P 500 for tens of dollars. You need thousands or even tens of thousands or even $100,000 to invest in real estate. That's a big hurdle to overcome. So if you can't come up with the capital, then real estate is just not for you. However, if you can do these two things, then you can overcome the hurdle and maybe you can start to invest or continue your investments. So the first thing that I recommend for folks to overcome this hurdle is to change your mindset. It's between the ears. And what I mean by that is you have to change the priorities in your life so that real estate investing and saving for your next property becomes more of a priority. Do you spend more money going out to eat than you save for your next property? Do you spend more money on the new car, on your car payment, than you're saving to invest? Then investing is not a priority, and therefore investing in real estate is not for you. But if you can move real estate up in your priority in terms of financially, if you can make that a higher priority, then you'll come up with the capital a lot quicker. I like this example real quick. If your mother had a terminal illness and she needed $10,000 by next week for an experimental procedure, she needed it in cash. Could you come up with the money? Hell yeah, you'd come up with the money. You wouldn't eat, you wouldn't sleep, you sure as shit wouldn't go out to eat till you got the $10,000 because that's the highest priority for you at that time. Let's make real estate a higher priority and the capital will be easier to find and to save for. The next thing that you can do is you can get creative. Real estate's this fun puzzle with hundreds of different solutions. Some of those solutions allow you to buy with less than the standard 20% down. 20% down on $300,000 is $60,000. However, if you house hack, you can buy a house with an FHA loan, which is 3.5% down. Considerably less than 20%. You can also use strategies like creative financing, which owner financing is an example of that. You can use a partner to bring in money to help you put less money down. Or you can do a BRRRR strategy where you pull money back out so you have less money in the deal. Keep in mind that risk does increase with a lot of these strategies, which brings me to number 3. The number 3 reason why people don't invest, shouldn't invest, or stop investing in real estate is their risk tolerance levels. So real estate is risky. We can't get around it. And if it's too risky for you, you just shouldn't invest in real estate. But if you can approach the risk in a methodical manner, then you can overcome and you can mitigate these risks. I'll lean back on my Marine Corps history. I was a pilot for the Marine Corps. We flew helicopters on night vision goggles super close to treetop level at high speeds. This is a risky endeavor. If we wanted to avoid risk, we'd never fly. But instead of avoiding the risk, we would study the risk and we would mitigate the risk. By studying the risk, I know the severity and the probability of the outcome. And then I can mitigate that to lower the risk to an acceptable level based on the reward. So let's use an example in real estate. One of the biggest risks is putting a bad tenant in a property, because bad tenants can cost you a lot in evictions and damage to your units, plus lost rent. So how do we avoid this risk? It's a fairly high probability. I know a lot of people that have bad tenants in their properties. And we know it's going to be costly. I just said it's going to cost you $5, $10, $15, $20,000 in damages. So how do we mitigate that to an acceptable level? Well, for one, we're going to screen our tenants. We're going to make sure our tenants have a 600 credit score. We're going to make sure our tenants make 3 times 1 month's rent in income. And we're going to call that tenant's past landlords and make sure that they would rent to them again. So now by screening our tenants, we've now mitigated that risk to an acceptable level to lower the likelihood of that outcome. You're never going to completely eliminate risk. And if that's not cool with you, then real estate's just not for you. The number 4 reason why people don't invest in real estate is market volatility. So market volatility, for me, is just another kind of risk. If you've talked to anybody or listened to any accounts of people who owned real estate from 06 to 08, it was a really bad time. A lot of people lost a lot of properties, both their personal houses and their investments, to foreclosures. Now, I've studied this risk a lot. I've analyzed it a lot. The probability is fairly low that we go through another major downturn. However, the severity is tremendous. We could lose everything we worked so hard for. In my case, if I lose real estate, I've got nothing left. So for me, that's extremely severe, even though the probability is low. In order to mitigate this risk, I've done 2 things. First and foremost, I want to make sure that my properties cash flow. And for me, that's $100 per door on average. Some properties do better, some properties do less. But on average, I've got $100 cash flow after I account for maintenance expenses, lawn care, tax, insurance, vacancies, utilities, etc., etc., etc. I still have $100 per door. And that allows me the cushion that I need to be able to absorb any volatility. Secondly, because the downturn, houses lost value up to 25%. So a lot of people who had a debt that was higher than 25% loan to value, they put less than 25% down. When they sold the house, they were underwater and actually had to come to the table with money to buy, to pay the seller, the buyer, to take the house. You understand that? So if I owe $100,000 in the house, I sell it for $75,000, I've got to bring $25,000 to the table. So for me, I mitigate that by making sure that my portfolio is never more than 75% loan to value. So my entire debt added up, divided by the total value of my properties, and that's the debt currently, the current principal balance of my debt, and the current value of my properties. If it doesn't get above 75%, I feel comfortable that even if we have a market downturn and I'm forced to sell, which I've mitigated by having cash flow, but if I am forced to sell, at least I won't be underwater, and at least I won't lose money on the deal. So, if the market volatility is too much for you, if you don't feel comfortable with $100 per door or setting yourself up for a 75% loan to value, maybe real estate investing isn't for you. Lastly, this is probably the one I hear the most, or at least the most common one out there, and that's the time and effort required for real estate investing. I don't want the 2 a.m. phone call about a leaking toilet. Never had that, by the way. Never had that particular case. The most common one that people reference, the leaking toilet at 2 a.m., never had it. I've had other things at 2 a.m., but never a leaking toilet. So how do we mitigate this risk or this issue? Again, I kind of go back to the risk, but let's just talk about this as an issue. First off, we need to face the fact that investing in real estate is not purely passive. The S&P 500 and investing in REITs, very passive. Owning a business is very active. Real estate's somewhere between. So we're going to need to put time and effort into this. We're needing to carve out time in our schedule for our portfolio. Now, after managing properties for the last 3 years, 150 of them for my mentor, I've learned that 95% of the time, if you've got good properties and you've got good tenants, that 95% of the time you just collect rent and enjoy the appreciation. However, 5% of the time, it's a swift kick to the nads and a huge pain in the ass. So how do we mitigate that 5%? Well, for one, you can just hire out all of the property management. Keep in mind, you still need to take the time to interview multiple property managers. You still need to take the time once you hire that property manager to manage them, ensure that they are managing the property the way you want to. They're getting market rents, they've got good tenants, they're taking care of the property, and they're taking care of the tenants. So again, not fully passive. What I recommend is more of a DIY approach, more hands-on, because no one's going to care about your property as much as you will. I recommend if you have less than 5 properties, that you manage it yourself. You do the 95% of the stuff that's fairly easy. Use property management software to collect rents every month, super easy. Then hire out the pain in the ass stuff. 2 examples that come up a lot are evictions and vacancies. So if you have an eviction coming up, somebody's not paying rent, just simply hire a lawyer to do that for you. If you screen correctly and you've got good tenants, this will only happen once every 5 or 6 years. It's really not worth you learning that full process. Now, me as a property manager, I did it on a yearly basis. As a company, we had one every 2 or 3 months. So I was familiar with the process and I would do it. I can do it myself. Lawyers do it daily. They sure as hell can do it. You who've only got 5 or 6 properties will only be doing this once every 5 or 6 years. It's not worth it. Just hire it out. Now, every 2 to 3 years, you'll likely have a vacancy on your property. Vacancies come with a big headache. You've got to list the property, good pictures, good listing description, get it on all the websites. You've got to show the property because, shit, you want people to come and see it. You've got to screen tenants. We've already talked about the importance of that. And you're going to want to find a good contract so that you've got a good agreement, a sound basis of agreement between the tenant and the landlord, the tenant and yourself. So for this one, I would hire out a realtor. Here in Bryan College Station, it's very common to hire a realtor to list your property for you. And they will list the property. They'll make sure it gets on the MLS and therefore Zillow, Realtor.com, Rent.com, Apartments.com, all the other websites. They will show the property for you. They will screen the tenants for you. And they'll make sure you get a great lease. In Texas, we use the Texas Realtor lease, which is the lease I use for all my properties and probably the best lease available to you here in Texas. So for a small upfront fee, you've got someone who's going to do all that for you, and all you have to do is basically approve the tenants, make sure you're getting market rent, and then start collecting the rent. So now we can mitigate a lot of that time, that effort that prevents people from buying real estate. But if you don't want to put in any time at all, if you want a purely passive income stream, then maybe real estate investing is not for you. So in conclusion, real estate investing is scary, expensive, full of risk, volatility, and takes a lot of your time. And therefore, it's not for a lot of people. But if you can see past those challenges, if you can see the generational wealth that can be built, then investing is for you. And you really need to like and subscribe to this channel, get more of my videos. I will teach you, I will help you on this journey. DM me, whatever it is, and we'll get through these challenges together so that in 10, 15, 20 years, we'll thank our today selves for taking on the challenges that I just listed before you. Until next time, you guys take it easy.